kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Alright, so here's the rigger. We've made a couple modifications. So for today, we are going to GPS it. Now, this is either gonna, and you can see my GPSs, hopefully you can see that. It's really dim. These GPSs suck, these little dynamite things. But I don't usually worry about GPSing and speeds. But you guys remember the Maiden was like slow and pitiful. It was on a 4S with a really pussy motor. We changed the motor a bit, changed battery a bit, put a smaller prop on. We're going to test this. So it's either going to explode or it's going to run really, really well. So I have this GPS set to 0. It's zeroed out and the speed is set on peak. All right. And then we're just going to do a little magic wrap here. All right. Take this old zip strip. And you guys know me fairly well, right? Those of you that watch my crap, you guys got a beat on me. I'm not an electric guy, and if, you know, it blows up and sinks, probably won't upset me. I wanted to, we're just going to have some fun. So we got about a 10-mile-an-hour wind out there. Nothing severe. So we're going to take some hatch tape, and if this does come off, it'll float. I mean, my blind ass probably won't find it, but it'll float. Okay? Happy days. So now what we're going to do, make sure everything's copacetic. I didn't change anything on the hull from last time. Alright. Go down the water. Be right back. As you guys can hear, or probably can't hear, there's my kid being crazy. It's fairly windy. We have the GPS on here. I'm not worried about handling. I'm just going to make sure that the speed is a little bit better. Okay? So, GPS is on there still. No fancy tricks. We're going to go down, we're going to go down there and floor it and see what happens. Uh-oh. There we go. Now she's a boat. We need to fix, we still need to tune the hull, don't forget. Wow, much better. Super fast. Funky! Still need to adjust our turn fin, adjust our strut. Everything's the same way as it was in the last video. And I am letting off on the trigger at the ends. Just because. Nice. I like it. Running really well. We need to fix it. I mean, the hull is running like crap, don't get me wrong, but the electronics are good. That's what I'm worried about. All right, let's bring her in. In a second. Yeah, we got to definitely change our toe in. I can feel it when I'm driving. And that turn fin's really wonky. Alright, let's bring her in. Before I have to go swimming. Alright, and I'll show you guys what I did. Okay, turn off our radio, be semi-safe. Okay. Now, I understand this is an R4. This is supposed to be a P-Class 4S boat. I get that. I understand that. If you're racing, that's what you want this boat to be. In my case here, I don't give a shit because I don't race. I just like a fast boat. We need to dial in the hull still. The hull's a little wonky, so let's see what our GPS is. And this battery still has a ton of life in it, but just not in the mood to swim. My guys in the chat group are giving me shit about doing a video. Let's see what we got. 70, 68, 67 miles an hour. Not bad when you consider it's a 4-pound boat and it's not tuned in. I hope you can see that. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. 67, not bad. Hey, there's my kid. Hi, little roto geek. Say something. Okay, so let's see what we got. See if our electronics are hot or not. Battery's fine, no water. Whew, motor's a little warm. ESC's fine. Motor's a little hot. But other than that, she's good. Be right back. Alright, we're back up at the shop. So the ESC is super cool. Motor, not so much. Now, the reason why. This, I changed the motor out to a Leopard 20... Oh, crap. What was this thing? I want to say it's a 2050 kV. Don't quote me on that. It's written on the bottom, but I can't seem to... I'll find out. So the motor is hot. I have a reasonably small prop. And the reason... The ESC is perfectly fine. The battery's lukewarm. So that's okay. The reason the motor is probably hot is not because the battery is too big. It's not because the prop is too big. It's because the hull's riding like shit. You saw it hopping and doing all that crazy stuff. That is a tremendous amount of torque at 50 some odd thousand RPM. I'm running a 6S. This is a 4S boat. So I put in a 6S, 150 amp ESC with burst. It's got higher burst. And a 2050 kV. Now, in a normal 6S, I usually run 17,000-ish kV. Okay, so this one's 2053, so it's pretty hot in the sense of a lot of RPM for a 6S. That's why I would never just keep throttling this thing forever until the battery's dead, because the motor's going to get really warm. The motor will handle heat better than the ESC will, or the battery. So the battery's cool, the ESC's cool, I'm good with that. Once we get this boat dialed in, the speed's going to increase quite a bit. Because you got to remember, this boat's going out of the water, into the water, out of the water. You saw it going da-da-da-da-da, okay? That is a tremendous load on that motor. Plus, I didn't even check to see if my prop was sharp or not. I just found the smallest little electric prop I had. I don't even know what it is. I'll find out. So 67 miles an hour in wind, a little bit of chop, and a hull that's not dialed in yet at all. We're going to do a whole series on this boat. We're going to go over dialing in the turn fin, dialing in the strut, all that stuff. And this motor temperature will come down quite a bit. But 67 miles an hour running like crap is pretty good. Now, the thing I want to do, I want to weigh this because I am curious. We're going to weigh it with the battery. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not. Let's see. Hopefully you can. I'll move the camera. All right. So I'm going to turn this guy on with the tare weight. Okay, 0. And we're going to lift our boat out with the battery. We're going to put him on. All right, units, pounds, 5.47. Now think about this for a second. This is something that a lot of people, don't get, okay? And being a boat guy my whole life, a real boat guy, you know, like in the sense of I worked at a marina when I was a kid, I was raised on a lake, we always had boats. We actually just bought a new boat, my mom and I, yesterday, actually. For the big lake. But something you have to consider. You water ski behind 25, 30 mile an hour. My cousins are professional water skiers. And they don't even hit the jump at 25. Okay? They ski at 30, 35 if they're good. competition skiing, okay? And that isn't a full-size boat. This boat weighs that amount and is doing 70. Think about that for a second. That is not scale mile per hour. That is true mile per hour. And the reason that boats are a bit trickier than cars, like RC cars are geared. So you don't have that insane amount of torque. I mean, yes, I'm not saying you don't have torque, RC car guys, don't kill me, but not like we do. Like if you change that prop just that much, you just fried everything in the boat. Whereas with a car, very seldomly will that happen. Okay. So for stock bench settings, this boat is still at the same spot it was in the Maiden video. I did not touch a thing. I didn't touch the strut. I did change the prop. I changed the battery. I changed the motor. I did not change any angles, any toe-in, nothing. This was the exact same settings the Maiden was. And you saw it was running and hopping and doing all that stuff, but it did 67 miles an hour. And the battery's not even warm. ESC is not even warm. The motor is hot. And I mean, I'm touching it. It's not like brutal, but yeah, it's hotter than I'd like it to be. But I think once we get that bouncing, that porpoising down a little bit, that's going to take a lot of load off, because once that prop is set, you're fine. And that's the thing you have to think about with boats, whether they're electric or gas. Getting going is the hardest part, okay? Now, if you have perfect crystal clear water, which we did not, perfect crystal clear, yes, you're still going to have surface tension that you have to break. Okay, we'll talk about, we're going to do a whole episode on surface tension and do you wax the bottom, do you sand the bottom, whatever. But it doesn't matter if you have a ton of surface tension or not, as long as it's consistent. And once you get up to speed and RPM, you're going to be fine. And then the motor is reaching its peak and it's just running. It's fine. But what kills things, what makes things really hot, is that bouncing in the water. It unloads, loads, unloads, loads, unloads, loads. Whether it's the strut, whether it's the fin. In my case, I think it's both. The toe in, okay, all three, because I just bench set it and threw it in the water. No big deal. It ran great. It was very stable in the sense of it wasn't going to flip. I was doing 67 miles an hour into wind. It didn't flip. I did 67 this way and I did 67 that way, and it seemed to be totally fine. But it did run like crap. It's a single pickup rudder. So if I can get that load drop down, my temperature, my motor is going to chill out quite a bit. Now, this is a bit high kV for a 6S, okay? It's a 2050 something ish, you know, and maybe it's a 30. Don't quote me. I can't see it. I wrote it down. Gas pissed me off. I wrote it down so I could tell you guys, and now I can't. Oh, it is. Okay, there's the 50. So it is a 2050 kV. So what that means is, for those of you that are new to the world, that is 2050 RPM per volt. Okay. So if you have a 6S, you have to multiply that nominal voltage times RPM, and it's a fuck ton of RPM on this thing. It's always going to be hot, but I don't want it to be so hot it burns things up. And once I get this hull dialed in, I really think it'll be okay. So either way, that's it. 67 miles per hour without balancing the prop. Well, I mean, it might be balanced. I don't know. I just kind of pulled it out of the magic drawer and threw it on there because it was small. If you had a smaller battery, you can increase the diameter of your prop and the pitch. That's fine. But 6S, 2050 kV, 150 amp. This stayed cool. This stayed cool. This was so-so. I mean, it's warmer than I would like, but even at the water, I could touch it without getting burnt. I mean, so it wasn't that bad. So yeah, we'll change some attitudes, and I think most of my problems in the fin and the toe in, we'll play with those. We'll do that in a different video. Might knock it back down to 4S, honestly. And just to get that, we'll keep the motor in, but just put a 4S battery in, because you have to remember the 4S battery we did in the Maiden, we were running a 2000 kV. Then I pulled it out, put a Leopard in there because it's a little bit bigger, a little more robust motor. And I have 6S motors I can put in here, you know, that are, you know, 1750 kV or whatever, but it's like, it's a light boat. It's small. You've got all these things to consider. If you're running like a big rigger, like my Duracell electric rigger, which is a big 6S, it's made for 6S, but it's bigger. So you can put in the lower KV, the bigger prop, and the 6S, but this is a very light boat, so you have to kind of think about, yes, I have more RPM, but I have a smaller prop, so it's less load, less weight to push. You know, there's no exact math. I'm sorry, these electric guys that think, oh yeah, you just do this, this, and this, boom, it's the fastest boat on earth. No, that's not the case. Every single boat is different, and I really like this, how it runs. It runs really well, even though it's running like crap. Okay, so hang on. All right, so sorry about that. I had a phone call. My son called me. But one of the things that I do think about is dry weight versus wet weight. And when I consider wet weight is with a battery. Dry weight is without a battery. Okay, so if I'm building the same boat my buddy JJ is building in Florida, or one of my other friends is building, I ask about dry weight because batteries are different. If I put a 6S 3000 milliamp in here, it's much, much smaller than a 5000. This is a big, beefy battery. Okay, and it's nice and it fits perfect. Okay, that's not the issue. So I say, okay, JJ, what's your dry weight? And he's like, oh, it's 4.2, and mine's 4, or mine's 4.5, whatever. And then wet weight would be loaded weight, which is with the battery in it, and the tape and the hatch and the whole 9 yards. So almost 70 miles an hour untuned at 5 some odd pounds. I'm not kicking that out of bed. I think that's pretty good. So very fast boat, and it can be faster. It will be faster, actually. Once we dialed in, this boat should easily hit 75, 80 miles an hour. And at 5 pounds, that's pretty crazy. Now, will I work on it till it hits 80? Absolutely not. Because once I get the ski buoys in this lake, my cousins put on their ski buoys, the ski jump and all that shit, 80 miles an hour is really tricky. Okay? And all you guys that think you're great racers because you can go around a buoy, and I'm not saying I'm good, but we have like 27 buoys in this lake. It's during the season, and it's very, very difficult not to hit them. And when it's a little boat doing 80 miles an hour and you hit one of them pigs, yeah, you're going to slash the buoy up, but you're going to destroy something on your boat, right? So it works really, really well. Super fast boat. We're going to do a few more videos on this. We're going to dial it in. We're going to change our toe in, change our fin. It's nice and sharp. That's not the issue. We'll double check our prop, make sure it's good. And we're just going to run it until I was putting a lot of, was it left attitude? No, I can't even remember. It was wanting to it was pulling to the right. So we definitely have to change our toe in a little bit. But I was definitely having to hold it. And like my Duracell rigger, that's a 6S, that one runs straight as a pin. But I also worked on it. This one's still bench fresh, right? So maybe we'll do some of that this weekend, but I want to run some other gassers and do some other project videos. So hope you guys liked it. Fun video, fun boat, stupid fast. I mean, 5 pounds at 80 miles an hour. That's well, I'm sorry, 67 miles an hour. I just pulled this out of my pocket. Not hateful. So until next time, kids, keep dry side up. Bye.